with the release of Black Panther Wakanda Forever, Phase 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe is now over.
Finally.
Now, first and foremost, I'd like to say that this movie was a beautiful tribute and send-off to Chadwick Boseman, who left this world at the age of 43. The initial scenes were created to write off and provide a funeral for the character, and the Marvel Studios intro at the beginning of every MCU film was actually themed after Black Panther and all his appearances in the MCU, so it was a really beautiful tribute to Chadwick Boseman. And with that being said, this movie was very boring. Now, I don't think it was necessarily a bad film, and with the steady decline of the MCU, my expectations for this film were very low. But yeah, it wasn't necessarily a bad film, it's just it was just too boring. Like, the pacing was just too slow, and 2 hours and 41 minutes, like, you cannot have bad pacing with that long of a film. It's damn near 3 hours long, and the pacing was very, very bad. And this was actually the same issue with Eternals. I mean, it wasn't the only issue, but the biggest issue with Eternals is that it was such a long film and the pacing was very, very bad, which in turn made the movie feel very empty, bland, boring, and made it feel dragged out. And that was the same issue with this film. I mean, if you summarize the story for Black Panther Wakanda Forever, the story isn't bad. It's not bad at all. But when I actually had to sit through it, it felt very empty, bland, boring, dragged out. And even though there were action sequences, they weren't that good, but there were action sequences, like those moments kind of woke me up from my seat because there just wasn't enough to make me feel engaged with the film so that I didn't really feel the time going by. But I kept looking at my phone, like looking at the time, like how much longer is in this film, because I felt every minute of this film going by. So yeah, like the pacing was just very, very bad. 2 hours and 41 minutes, I mean, that's a long time to have like very bad pacing in your film. So there were scenes that could have been scrapped out and it would not have affected the story negatively in any way. There were things that required less focus and things that required more focus. Like Everett Ross, he did not need to be in this film at all. He didn't really do anything. He actually did less in this film than he did in the first film, so he could have been scrapped out and the film would have been fine. They could have focused a little bit more on Ironheart, even though I really don't like that actress. They could have focused more on her and given her more depth, because in this film she was basically just comic relief. She didn't really do anything. And even though this movie was just a bunch of people being emotional, the acting was pretty good all around except for the chick that played Ironheart. I honestly don't even know her name, but aside from her, everybody was good. Leticia Wright, Angela Bassett, Tenoch Huerta, like everybody was good. Tenoch actually provided the most captivating performance for me. Honestly, I want to see a lot more of him in future MCU films. I don't know if he will. But yeah, fantastic job by the cast, or at least most of them. Like, the acting in this film was not the issue at all, it was the writing. Off the top of my head, the bad acting is only applicable to the chick that played Ironheart and Michael B. Jordan, who reprised his role as Killmonger. Now, people can say whatever they want, but in my personal opinion, Killmonger is the worst antagonist and villain of any MCU film I can think of off the top of my head. He is both written horribly and he's depicted horribly by Michael B. Jordan, who is one of the worst actors I have ever seen. Every time I see him, I feel like I'm watching the same exact guy. Like Creed, Killmonger, same fucking guy. Fortunately, his role in the film was very small and he was only there to provide Shuri with motivation to kill Namor, which made no sense. I mean, I get that he has to be around water, that's his weakness, but she was impaled by a vibranium spear. Like, she shouldn't even be alive. But I mean, whatever. That was Michael B. Jordan's only role in the film, for her to get that motivation, only to realize that she and Namor are exactly the same. They both want to watch the world burn for what's happened to them. They're both grieving, they're both emotional. So again, this movie is just a bunch of emotional people, but at least the acting's good. And if I'm not mistaken, this movie makes the first reference to mutants in the entire MCU, because I know Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver are both mutants, but I don't think they're referred to as such. They're referred to as something else. I cannot remember what it was, but Namor refers to himself as a mutant, and ever since the acquisition of 20th Century Fox and Disney having the rights to X-Men films, etc., etc., a lot of people are excited for these films to come, the X-Men films and all that. Honestly, I am too, because they have a lot of cool powers and abilities, and the X-Men films weren't bad. I mean, the first X-Men film, X2 and X-Men First Class, I thought those were pretty good. I didn't really care for the other ones after that. But yeah, I don't know who they're gonna get to play all these mutants, because there's a lot of them. But hey, we'll see what happens. But yeah, I don't have a lot to say about this film. It was pretty average, nothing spectacular. The writing in terms of the story wasn't bad, but I mean, 2 hours and 41 minutes. The pacing was very slow, it was boring, and it just did not have enough to keep me engaged in the film and not have me looking at my phone to see how much longer is in this movie. So yeah, nothing spectacular. You might like it. Again, it was a beautiful tribute to Chadwick Boseman, who left us way too early. I can't show fake love, so I'm not gonna say I loved him as an actor. I honestly did not. I didn't care for him as an actor, but he did his very best to bring this character to life, to put on the best performance he could while suffering from cancer. And that hits home to me, because I lost both my parents to cancer, and honestly wish I could have known more about them. I could have spent more time with them, but hey, it is what it is. We all gotta die at some point, but I don't wish death on anybody at the age of 43, so much respect to him. I've seen the suffering that cancer causes, so the fact that he was able to tough it out and push through it, knowing that he's going through this horrible condition, I mean, that deserves admiration and respect, and may he rest in peace wherever he's at. But let me know how you feel in the comment section, whether you agree with me or you disagree. Please hit that like button. It helps me out a lot to push my content out. Subscribe if you have not already, and I will catch you in the next video. See you then. Bye bye.